Welcome back, everyone. Today we continue with the next part of this series called What If Goku Remember the Saiyans? Let's aim for 400 likes on this one. Also, don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you've enjoyed the series thus far. With that, let's continue. I don't know, Kakarot replied honestly. I defeated him the first time, and then he was modified into some kind of android. We fought again, and I hit him with a Kamehameha wave. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left. So you murdered him? Tien accused, his eyes narrowing. No, Kakarot corrected. We engaged in combat, and he lost. You should know the difference. Tien turned and floated away, clearly angry. Did I hear right? Roshi asked, coming closer. Did you really defeat mercenary Tao? Yes, Kakarot confirmed. You heard right. I did defeat Tao. What's that got to do with anything? Yamcha asked, curious. Tao is Master Shen's brother, Roshi explained. And if you killed Tao, he and his pupils will stop at nothing to destroy you. They won't win, Kakarot said confidently, a grin spreading across his face. They aren't just going to try and win, Roshi cautioned. They'll want you dead. They won't succeed at that either, Kakarot said, his grin widening. Maybe they should ask Tao how that turned out for him. Back in the ring, another Doden Ray shot at Krillin. The young monk jumped out of the way again and cupped his hands at his side. Me, ha, he shouted, sending a beam of blue energy up at Kaozu. Kaozu barely floated out of the way, but the moment of inattentiveness was all Krillin needed. He shot up into the air and brought a knee up under Kaozu's chin, sending him flying out of control. Krillin moved faster than the flying boy and came down with a double axe handle to the top of Kaozu's head, sending him crashing hard into the ground outside the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said into the microphone, it appears that Krillin is the winner of this match. Later that night, after a Sen-sized dinner with Bulma and the rest of their friends, Kakarot lay sleeping. His match wasn't until the morning, and even Saiyan warriors needed rest. Suddenly, his eyes shot open. Something wasn't right. An instant later, a hand shot at him, intending to murder him in his sleep. Kakarot's hand shot up and grabbed the attacking hand. The owner of the hand was a ninja dressed entirely in black, covering everything but his eyes. Kakarot rolled to the side as another strike came from the mysterious warrior. Releasing the ninja's hand, Kakarot countered with a kick to the chest that sent the attacker flying through a window. The young Sen followed the ninja through the window and floated slowly down to the ground. By this time, the ninja was on his feet again and charging. Kakarot dodged a punch to his face and drove a knee into the assassin's stomach, doubling him over. The warrior collapsed in a heap. Kakarot walked over and pulled the mask off the ninja to reveal Master Shen. So you resort to killing me in my sleep? Kakarot asked, his voice cold. It's what you deserve, Shen spat. You killed my brother. I had no choice, Kakarot said calmly. It was him or me. So you might as well kill me now, Shen said, defiant despite his situation. No, Kakarot declared firmly, his voice steady and resolute. I'm not like you and your students. I've seen the damage people like you cause when they're in control. I've trained my whole life to stop people like you and your followers. I'm not going to kill you. But remember this, if you ever try to bully anyone else, and I find out, I will be there to stop you. Hidden in the bushes, Tien watched the scene unfold. Kakarot had easily bested Shen, and Tien had been ready to intervene. However, upon hearing Kakarot's words, he realized the young warrior wasn't going to kill Shen, just humiliate him. Deep in thought, Tien turned away and slowly walked off, pondering the implications of what he had just witnessed. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed across the arena, filled with excitement. Our next match is about to begin. Will the contestants please come to the stage? Kakarot stood on the stage, eagerly awaiting his next challenge. Will Master Shen please come to the stage? The announcer repeated. After a few minutes of waiting, the announcer continued. Since Master Shen is nowhere to be found, the winner of the match is Kakarot. What happened to Master Shen? Chaozu asked, confusion evident in his voice. I don't know, Tien replied, concealing the truth. I guess he didn't want to face us after what happened last night, he thought to himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said once more, our next match will feature Tien, who dominated in his fight against Yamcha, against the great Master Roshi. Both are very accomplished fighters, but only one can move on to the finals. As Tien stepped into the ring to face Master Roshi, his mind raced. This was the man who had been a rival to his master. From childhood, Tien had been taught to dislike Roshi because his master harbored resentment against him. Even more troubling was the fact that Roshi had trained the boy who had killed his mentor, Tao. Yet, earlier, Tien had witnessed that same boy show mercy, allowing his own master, Shen, to escape in disgrace when he had every opportunity, and every right, to kill him. Let's begin! the announcer declared, signaling the start of the match. Tien pushed all distracting thoughts aside and charged at Roshi, launching a flurry of kicks and punches faster than most of the audience could follow. The elderly martial arts master effortlessly blocked or dodged every attack with the practiced ease that came from nearly a century of training. Not bad, Roshi remarked calmly, but your blind hatred interferes with your concentration. You have so much potential, yet you waste it following Shen's petty teachings. Shut up, old man, Tien roared, charging at Roshi with renewed intensity. His hard right fist connected with Roshi's face, sending the old man flying backward. Not relenting for a moment, Tien continued his relentless assault, pummeling Roshi with blow after blow before sending him crashing into the stage tiles. A few seconds later, Roshi was back on his feet, dusting off his fighting uniform. You are indeed strong, he acknowledged, his voice calm yet firm, but you still have a lot to learn about martial arts. I'll show you, Tien retorted, determination burning in his eyes. I know more than you think. There isn't a technique I can't master. I've even mastered your techniques. Ka, ma, ha, mi, ha. Roshi's eyes widened as he realized the Kamehameha wasn't aimed at him but at the crowd. Oh no, he thought. I have no choice. I either have to get in the way of the attack or let him harm innocents, and he knows it. Without hesitation, Roshi threw himself in front of the attack, crossing his arms to absorb the brunt of it. Seconds later, the smoke cleared, revealing Roshi still standing, albeit panting heavily. That was low, even for one of Shen's students, he said, breathing hard. Whatever works, Tien said with a smirk. So much potential, Roshi remarked, shaking his head. It's a shame you waste it. I could teach you a lot. Can it, old man? Tien snapped. Well, I've done all I can, Roshi muttered to himself. Now let's just hope some of it sinks in. He turned and walked towards the edge of the ring. Without stopping, he hopped down into the grass. It appears that Master Roshi has exited the ring, the announcer declared. That makes Tien the winner. Wow, Bulma said to Kakarot, eyes wide in surprise. Do you think Roshi gave up because he's afraid of Tien? No, Kakarot replied thoughtfully. They seemed about evenly matched. I think Roshi could have at least held his own. He quit to send a message. And what message would that be? Yamcha interjected, still angry from having his leg crushed earlier in his match with Tien. That what he was trying to say wasn't for personal gain, Kakarot explained. He didn't want Tien to think he was simply trying to distract him for a victory. He wanted Tien to be sure he meant every word he said. Are you ready for the next match? The announcer said to the crowd. On one side, we have Krillin, and on the other, we have Kakarot. These two are both students of the same master, but only one of them can leave here victorious. Kakarot stood across from Krillin, watching the other boy take on a fighting stance. Let's see what you can do, the Saiyan said with a grin. Krillin flashed a grin of his own. It had been nearly 3 years since the two had fought, and he had gotten much stronger. He had some surprises for the young Saiyan. Fight, the announcer declared. Krillin shot at Kakarot, throwing kicks and punches at blinding speed. Unfortunately for him, Kakarot blocked or dodged them all with practiced ease. Seconds later, the two separated, Krillin panting while Kakarot remained composed. He's still stronger than me, Krillin thought. No matter how strong I get, he's always stronger. I guess I'll have to try something sneaky. He cupped his hands at his side. Me, hey, he shouted, unleashing the beam at Kakarot. You really think that's going to work? Kakarot asked, a confident smirk on his face as the beam hurtled towards him. With a swift motion, he raised his hand and backhanded the beam into the sky, sending it safely away from the spectators. But much to his surprise, Krillin had moved behind him and was now gripping his tail tightly, squeezing with all his might. Do you really think that will work? Kakarot asked, unfazed. I eliminated that weakness long ago. With a swift movement, the young Saiyan brought his elbow down on Krillin's head, sending him crashing into the ring floor. Krillin slowly rose to his feet, wiping a trickle of blood from his mouth. I won't be defeated that easily, he shouted, determination burning in his eyes. So, you want to go all out then? Kakarot asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. You were holding back, Krillin asked, his eyes widening in shock. Sorry, but this is boring me, Kakarot replied nonchalantly. I'm going to finish it. With those words, Kakarot seemed to disappear from sight. In a blink, he reappeared in front of Krillin, driving a powerful punch into his gut, doubling him over. Kakarot followed up with a sharp chop to the back of Krillin's neck, dropping him to the floor. It appears that Krillin is down, the announcer said, starting the countdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Krillin is down. Kakarot is the winner. Kakarot walked over and helped Krillin to his feet. No hard feelings, he said with a smile. It's okay, Krillin said, returning the smile. You're the better fighter. The night passed quickly and without incident. The next morning arrived, and it was time for the finals. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer said into the microphone, "the moment you've all been waiting for has arrived. Tien and Kakarot will face off in the ring. Both fighters have breezed through their competition, and now we will see which one is the best." Tien stood across from Kakarot, staring down the young Saiyan. Just days before, the Triclops had wanted to kill the boy, but he had seen that Kakarot wasn't the ruthless killer his master had told him about. Initially driven by revenge, Tien now only wanted to prove himself the better fighter. "Ready, fight," the announcer declared. In an instant, the two fighters shot at each other, exchanging kicks and punches at lightning speed. Kakarot's fist found its way into Tien's stomach, doubling the Triclops over. Kakarot followed up with a knee to Tien's face, sending him flying into a statue. The cement gave way under the impact, crumbling around Tien as he hit it. Seconds later, Tien crawled out from under the debris and stood, wiping blood from his mouth. "Not bad," he said, his voice steady, "but you don't stand a chance of winning this." "I doubt that," Kakarot replied, a confident grin on his face. "I'm just getting warmed up." "Multi-form!" Tien shouted, splitting into 4 identical copies of himself. All 4 Tiens charged at Kakarot, launching a coordinated barrage of punches and kicks, but none of their attacks landed. Kakarot lashed out with a swift kick, catching one of the Tiens in the face and causing it to fall to the ring and disappear. He then vanished, leaving only an afterimage for another Tien's fist to pass through as he reappeared behind the warrior. Bringing an axe handle down on the second Tien's head, he sent that one down to the ring to disappear as well. Realizing the futility of his strategy, the remaining Tien halted his attack, understanding that the multiform technique was useless against Kakarot. "Not bad," Tien said, his voice tinged with admiration, "but you won't be able to beat this one. I suggest you dodge if you want to live." He floated up into the air, forming a triangle with his hands as he concentrated his energy. "Tri-BM ha!" he shouted, unleashing an enormous amount of energy down at the young Saiyan. When the smoke cleared, the ring was completely destroyed, and Kakarot was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Kakarot?" Bulma asked, her voice trembling. "He can't be gone," she continued, sniffling. "Look," Roshi said, pointing up at the sky where Kakarot floated, staring down Tien. "I see you decided to dodge," Tien said, his tone challenging. "But you know now you can't win. When you hit the ground, you will go out of bounds." "You're not the only one that can fly," Kakarot replied dryly. "I can stay up here all day." "We'll see who can stay up here longer then," Tien retorted, determination burning in his eyes. "I think I'll finish this now," Kakarot said, gathering his energy. He shot towards Tien, throwing a punch aimed at his head. Tien barely managed to block the blow, grimacing from the impact. While he could use the air dancing technique to levitate his body, Kakarot had taken it a step further, exhibiting complete control in the air as well as on the ground. His thoughts were abruptly interrupted as Kakarot's knee slammed into his face, followed by an axe handle to his head, sending him hurtling into the grass below, creating a small crater upon impact. "Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen," the announcer declared. "Kakarot has retained his title and is still the world champion." Kakarot floated to the ground and extended a hand to Tien. "You did well," he said sincerely. "You have a lot of good techniques. Maybe we could train together sometime." Despite his earlier resentment, Tien couldn't help but smile. As much as he hated the young Saiyan for what happened to Tao, he realized Kakarot wasn't the ruthless killer his master had described. Tao must have left him no choice. "Sure," Tien agreed. "Let's go get some food to celebrate," Yamcha suggested. "That sounds good to me," Kakarot replied enthusiastically. He paused for a moment. "Just let me run and get my armor and the Dragon Ball I've got in my locker first." "It's all right," Bulma said with a wink. "I'll grab it for you, lover boy. You've earned the rest." Kakarot grinned. "Thanks," he said appreciatively. Minutes later, they were all seated in a restaurant, with Kakarot inhaling food like he hadn't eaten in years. Suddenly, the Saiyan's eyes widened. "Bulma!" he exclaimed, shooting up from the table mid-bite, leaving the food and his friends behind. "What's with him?" Krillin asked, puzzled. "I don't know," Yamcha said, "but he seemed serious. Let's follow him." Kakarot arrived at the locker he had rented to find a horrifying sight. Bulma lay on the floor in a pool of blood. "No!" Kakarot yelled, dropping to his knees beside her. "Bulma, talk to me." The girl remained lifeless, her face pale and motionless. "Is she all right?" a voice said from behind Kakarot. The young Sen turned to face the tournament announcer, his eyes burning with fury and desperation. "What happened?" Kakarot demanded, his voice trembling with emotion. "A monster came," the announcer said, his voice trembling. "It confronted the girl and demanded something. When she refused, it killed her and took off with some kind of ball and a list of all the martial artists." "The Dragon Ball," Kakarot muttered, clenching his fist. "I'll avenge you, Bulma," he vowed, looking down at her lifeless body. Then I'll wish you back with the Dragon Balls. He checked Bulma's pockets for the Dragon Radar but noticed it was missing. What happened? Roshi asked as he and the rest of the gang entered the area, their faces filled with concern. They froze upon seeing Bulma's body. She's dead, Kakarot said, his voice filled with sorrow and anger. What's this? Chaozu said, picking up a piece of paper with a strange symbol on it. Roshi glanced at the paper and paled. It's King Piccolo. Who's King Piccolo? Tien asked, his curiosity piqued. It's a long story, Roshi said, his voice heavy with dread. The old master began to recount the tale of King Piccolo, the malevolent demon who once terrorized the world. When Master Roshi had finished telling of King Piccolo's defeat, he sighed deeply. After my master trapped King Piccolo with the evil containment wave, I thought he was gone for good, but it appears he is back again. Kakarot, now fully dressed in his armor, adjusted the scouter on his eye. Well, he won't be around for long, he declared. I will finish what your master started. Wait, Roshi said urgently. You're still weak from your fight with Tien. You can't face King Piccolo like this. No offense, Kakarot said, glancing at Tien, but I barely broke a sweat in that fight. He reached into the pouch at his side, pulling out a senzu bean and popping it into his mouth. But I'll take this just to be sure. Kakarot clicked his scouter, scanning the surroundings for power levels. Several strong ones were moving away from the area, which didn't surprise him since most of the planet's best fighters had attended the tournament. He wished the beast that had killed Bulma hadn't taken the Dragon Radar too. That little device would have made it much easier to track down his girlfriend's killer. The young Sen grimaced, frustrated at not having a clear lead, and took off after the closest of the retreating powers. King Piccolo sat atop a giant throne in Emperor Pilaf's airship. Before him stood the little blue emperor and his two lieutenants, Chao and Mai. Has Tambourine returned yet? Piccolo asked. He should be back soon, Pilaf replied. There's a Dragon Ball headed our way. Excellent, King Piccolo said, a sinister grin spreading across his face. Soon, everything will be as it should. Your Excellency, Pilaf started nervously. Since I have fished you out of the sea and freed you, when you used the Dragon Balls to rule the world, I was wondering if I could have half. The little emperor hesitated, aware of how powerful King Piccolo was rumored to be. I mean, a third, or a quarter, or some nice swamp ground somewhere. You fool, Piccolo said, ignoring the little emperor's antics. I don't need the Dragon Balls to rule this pathetic planet. Then what are you going to use them for? Pilaf asked, his curiosity piqued. I will wish for eternal youth, Piccolo answered. I will rule this planet for all eternity. Before Piccolo could continue detailing his plan, Tambourine entered holding the 4-star Dragon Ball. So, you have returned, Piccolo said. Yes, my master, Tambourine replied. I have one of the Dragon Balls and a device to track down more of them. Excellent, Piccolo said. Did you get the list of the martial artists as well? Yes, master, Tambourine confirmed. I have the list. Excellent, Piccolo continued. Then your task is to hunt down and destroy these fighters. Sire, Piano interrupted. Would it not be wiser to hunt down the Dragon Balls first? You aren't getting any younger, after all. You are correct, Piccolo acknowledged. With this little device, it won't take long at all to find the Dragon Balls. We also have a bigger version of that on our ship, Pilaf interjected eagerly. Then I shall need 2 more servants, Piccolo declared. My master, Piano interjected cautiously. Are you sure you are strong enough to create 2 more servants? It matters not, Piccolo said dismissively. When I have the Dragon Balls, I will be forever young. With that, Piccolo started concentrating. A few seconds later, his throat convulsed, and 2 eggs emerged from his mouth. When the eggs hatched, 2 winged creatures that looked Namekian in nature but horribly mutated emerged. I will call them Cymbal and Drum, Piccolo said. Now go and find the Dragon Balls for your master. Kill any who get in your way. Kakarot landed outside a martial arts dojo, his eyes scanning the area intently. He had been tracking large power levels for the past 2 days but still hadn't found Bulma's killer. His heart ached with each fruitless search. On his last stop, he had found the lifeless body of Bacterium. The stench was unforgettable from the last tournament. It was becoming clear that Piccolo was trying to eliminate any possible threats. Kakarot walked into the dojo, his heart heavy with dread. The scene was all too familiar. King Chappa, one of his past opponents, lay dead surrounded by his students. Checking his scouter again, he saw a high power level moving away. This one has to be it, he thought. Without hesitation, he took to the air, shooting out in hot pursuit. Tambourine smiled as he landed in the middle of a big boxing ring, relishing in his work. His latest target had just finished a match against a weaker opponent. The name on the sheet was Pamput, a boxer turned movie star. Tambourine dove at the boxer with a killing strike, eager to add another name to his list. Before the strike could land, An arm stopped Tamburine's attack. The arm belonged to another fighter, one Tamburine recognized as the two-time champion of the World Martial Arts Tournament. The monster's smile widened. Defeating this fighter would surely bring him great reward from his master. He swung his other fist, aiming to strike the interloper in the face and end this quickly. Kakarot caught the monster's fist and grinned. "You'll pay for what you did to Bulma," he said, his voice low and filled with anger. "Ah yes," Tamburine sneered. "The girl at the tournament. Her screams were delightful as I ended her pathetic life. You'll suffer for that," Kakarot growled, driving a fist into Tamburine's stomach. The beast doubled over in pain, a sensation he had never experienced before. It dawned on him that he might be messing with the wrong person. Kakarot brought his knee up, smashing it into Tamburine's face and sending the monster sliding across the ring. The Sen didn't let up for a second. He shot forward, grabbing the monster and throwing him high into the air. "This is for Bulma," he shouted, cupping his hands and launching a Kamehameha wave at the monster. The beam hit Tamburine with crushing force, melting through his skin and severing vital organs. Kakarot sighed heavily. He had avenged his love, but the real threat, the one who had unleashed this monster, was still out there. He hit the button on his scouter, scanning the area. No power levels in the immediate vicinity seemed significant. "I guess all I can do is wait," he thought, frustration gnawing at him. Piccolo felt a sudden jolt as Tamburine's life force faded away. The Namekian staggered, momentarily thrown off by his minion's abrupt death. "Tamburine's dead," he muttered. "We need to hurry." "It's okay, Master," Piano reassured him. "Drum is on his way back with the last Dragon Ball. There's nothing to stop you from making your wish." As if on cue, Drum entered the airship, clutching the final Dragon Ball. "Excellent," Piccolo said, his voice filled with anticipation. "Put the ship down. I have a wish to make." "Right away, Your Excellency," Pilaf said, ordering the ship to land. Minutes later, King Piccolo stepped out of the ship with Cymbal and Drum at his side. He scattered the 7 Dragon Balls at his feet and raised his arms. "Arise, dragon," Piccolo commanded, "and grant me my wish." The sky darkened, lightning flashed, and one of the bolts struck the Dragon Balls, transforming into the mighty dragon, Shenron. "You who have summoned me," Shenron boomed, "I will grant you one wish." "I wish to be eternally young," Piccolo shouted, his voice echoing with excitement. "It shall be done," Shenron replied. With a flash of light, Piccolo transformed from a frail old creature into a young and powerful Namekian warrior. Before Shenron could disappear, Piccolo shot a blast at the dragon, destroying it and ensuring no one else could make another wish. "Now no one can stop me," he laughed, the sound chilling and triumphant. Kakarot watched the news on the television at Master Roshi's house. After failing to locate anything with his scouter, he decided it would be more efficient to wait for Piccolo to reveal himself, rather than flying all over looking for him. If Piccolo had sent Tamburine to finish off the martial artists, he would eventually come here to attack the Turtle Hermit. Either that, or something would appear on the news about the monster. From what Roshi had told him, it was unlikely Piccolo would remain hidden for long. "We interrupt this regularly scheduled program for some breaking news," a voice announced from the TV. "People of Earth," Piccolo's voice boomed as the picture on the TV switched to show the now youthful Namekian. "There is a new world order. My order. Murder is no longer illegal. It is encouraged. Rape, theft, assault, battery, and pillaging will be the norm of the day. All will answer to my rule. Anyone who tries to stop me will be destroyed." Kakarot turned away from the TV and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Roshi asked, his voice filled with concern. "He was in the capital," Kakarot said, "in Chao Palace. I'm going to go stop him." "Alone?" Roshi inquired, worry etched in his features. "Yes," Kakarot said firmly. "I don't think any of you are strong enough to stop him." "I'll go with you," Krillin offered. "We can fight together." Kakarot's scouter suddenly beeped, detecting 2 power levels heading their way fast. Both were equal to Tamburine's. The Saiyan laughed, a hint of excitement in his voice. "No, stay here," Kakarot said. "There's trouble headed this way. By the looks of it, it's 2 of Piccolo's minions. You, Tien, and Yamcha should be able to handle them. I'm going after Piccolo." "Are you sure you're strong enough?" Yamcha asked, his voice tinged with doubt. "I've scanned as far as my scouter will reach for the highest power level I can find and haven't found one higher than mine," Kakarot replied, his determination evident. "If you get too bored after taking out Piccolo's freaks, then you can follow, but I'm going to end this now." Cymbal and Drum landed on Roshi's island, their eyes narrowing as they saw 4 fighters standing in front of the house. One of the fighters glanced their way before shooting into the air, leaving the other three in fighting stances. Piccolo had sent the two monsters out together after Tambourine failed to return, starting with the most powerful fighters. They had not expected to find 4 of the strongest warriors in one place. One of these fighters had probably killed Tambourine. Before Cymbal and Drum could organize an attack, Krillin shot forward with a swift kick, sending Cymbal flying back into the sea. Drum retaliated with a kick of his own at Krillin but was knocked out of the air by Yamcha's powerful fist. "How about you play with me?" Yamcha taunted. Tien simply stood and observed the two battles. While Yamcha was not as skilled as he was, both the bandit and Krillin were stronger. Besides, he would intervene if needed. No reason not to let his friends get some good practice. Cymbal shot up from the water and lunged at Krillin with a fierce punch. "I'll kill you!" he shouted, but his fist only struck an afterimage. Krillin reappeared behind the monster and brought a powerful axe-handle blow down on Cymbal's head, sending him crashing back into the depths of the ocean. Drum unleashed a flurry of kicks and punches at Yamcha, but the bandit skillfully dodged every blow. Kakarot had been right. These monsters weren't as strong as they had feared. In fact, they were pretty weak compared to himself and Krillin. Yamcha's brief moment of overconfidence cost him as Drum's clawed fist connected with his face, sending him flying back. Rolling with the blow, Yamcha shot back at Drum and delivered a powerful punch to the beast's face. It was time to stop fooling around. "Wolf Fang Fist!" he shouted, unleashing a barrage of rapid blows that cracked Drum's bones with each strike. When the attack was over, Drum collapsed in a heap, motionless. "He's dead," Tien said, walking up behind Yamcha. "Good work. We should help Krillin," Yamcha suggested. "I don't think he'll need it," Tien replied, watching Krillin closely. Krillin concentrated, forming a ball of energy in his hand. He had conceived this attack a while ago but hadn't found the right opportunity to use it. It wasn't suited for a tournament, as it was incredibly lethal if executed correctly. He spun his arm in a circle above his head, watching as the energy ball flattened and began spinning like a disc. "Destructo Disc!" he shouted, hurling the spinning disc at Cymbal as the monster rose from the ocean. The disc hit Cymbal in the arm, cutting deeply into the flesh before dissipating. Krillin sighed. His attack wasn't perfected yet, but he was making progress. At least it had cut into something this time. A voice interrupted Krillin's musings. "Tri-beam ha!" Tien shouted, engulfing the monster in a wave of golden energy that permanently ended Cymbal's existence. "Sorry," Tien said, walking up to Krillin. "I figured Kakarot may need us even if he says he doesn't, and I couldn't let you toy around with this one all day, but that was a good attack. When it's perfected, I'd hate to be on the receiving end of it." "Thank," Krillin said, smiling appreciatively. Kakarot landed outside of Chao Palace, his eyes blazing with determination. "Piccolo," he shouted, "come out and face me." A moment later, the tall Namekian emerged, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "So, you're the one who killed Tambourine?" "Yes, that would be me," Kakarot replied, his voice steady. "And now I'm going to kill you for what your minion did to Bulma." "You don't know what you're dealing with," Piccolo boasted, his confidence unshaken. "I know you think you're strong, but you stand no chance against me." Kakarot pressed a button on his scouter. 260, he said, laughing. "I think it's you who has no idea who you're dealing with." Piccolo laughed menacingly. "I've terrorized this planet for years, boy," he said. His rant was abruptly interrupted as he doubled over in pain. Cymbal and Drum had just been destroyed, but how? The Demon King had no time to ponder as Kakarot's fist collided hard with his face, sending him flying across the courtyard. Several bystanders around the palace cheered as Kakarot knocked Piccolo through a wall. "Shut up!" the Demon King shouted, sending a blast at the onlookers. Kakarot appeared before the blast and swatted them away effortlessly. "Your fight's with me," he said, charging back at Piccolo and unleashing a flurry of kicks and punches. Each blow landed with devastating force. Kakarot continued the onslaught, beating the demon mercilessly. Purple blood sprayed from Piccolo's mouth as Kakarot buried his fist in the Demon King's stomach. "Now to finish you off," Kakarot said, cupping his hands at his side. Piccolo knew this was the end. The boy was simply too powerful for him to defeat. He hadn't thought it was possible, but he was about to die. Desperately, he focused all his energy into creating one last egg. This egg would contain his entire essence, ensuring his legacy would continue. "K, me, hey, Kakarot shouted, putting all his energy into the blast that would end the Demon King's short reign. Piccolo spit out the egg, sending it as far as he could with a final message. "Kill Kakarot," before the blue beam overtook him. Kakarot sighed in relief. It was over. Now all he had to do was revive Bulma, and everything would be back to normal. Kakarot landed back on Roshi's island. After the fight with Piccolo, he had located the dragon radar among the few items the demon had left behind. Unfortunately, Nothing was showing up on the radar. Someone must have made a wish. Now he would have to wait a year before he could wish Bulma back. The Sane sighed and walked toward the house, a mix of exhaustion and determination in his step. "You're back," Tien said as Kakarot entered the house. "You're all over the news as the one who killed Piccolo. It's amazing how strong you are." "Yes, Kakarot is quite an amazing fighter," a voice said from behind Kakarot. "He's my most promising student, after all." Kakarot turned to see Korin standing in the doorway. "What brings you here?" he asked. "You're not one to leave your tower, I know," Korin replied, his voice calm yet serious. "I need to get an errand boy, but getting to why I'm here. Kakarot, Kami wants you to come and train with him." "Kami?" Yamcha asked, eyes widening. "As in the Guardian of Earth?" "Yes, that would be the one," Korin confirmed. "Sorry," Kakarot said, shaking his head, "but I have other things to do. I have to wish Bulma back." "Kami said it was very important," Korin insisted. "Besides, when Piccolo made his wish, he destroyed the eternal," Kakarot exclaimed, his eyes wide with shock. "Kami is the only one who can revive the eternal dragon," Korin explained. "You'll have to go and see him on his lookout if you want to wish back your girlfriend." Kakarot tossed the dragon radar to Yamcha. "If the Dragon Balls become active, gather them, and wish Bulma back." "Sure thing," Yamcha replied, catching the radar. Hours later, Kakarot stood at the top of Korin's tower. "So, where's this Kami?" he asked, looking around. "Well, if you go straight up from this tower, high up into the air, you'll find Kami's lookout," Korin replied, pointing upwards. Without further conversation, Kakarot jumped out of the tower and shot high up into the air, flying toward where Kami's lookout was supposed to be. After a long flight, Kakarot landed on top of a floating bowl-shaped platform in the sky. "This must be Kami's lookout," he thought. "Well, I suppose I should find this Kami." He walked forward and soon saw a black genie floating on a magic carpet. "Hi," the genie greeted warmly. "I'm Mr. Popo. Kami has been expecting you." "Where is he?" Kakarot asked, anxious to get the Guardian to bring the dragon back so he could wish back Bulma. "Before you can see Kami," Popo said calmly, "you need to pass a test." "Test?" Kakarot asked, eyebrows raised. "What test?" "You have to hit Mr. Popo," Popo replied with a small smile. Kakarot pressed a button on his scouter. 300, he said. "Not bad, but this won't be much of a challenge." Kakarot charged at the genie, but before his fist could land, Popo disappeared and reappeared behind him, landing a light punch to the back of Kakarot's head. The blow didn't have enough force to actually hurt the Saiyan, but it still surprised him. Kakarot turned and started throwing a flurry of kicks and punches at the genie, but Popo managed to dodge every blow with ease. "How?" Kakarot asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "Your attacks are clumsy," Popo replied calmly. "Your movements are obvious. You give yourself away before you strike." Kakarot grimaced and renewed his attack with more determination than before. Unfortunately for the young Saiyan, Popo still remained ahead of the attacks, effortlessly dodging and countering each one. "You must be as calm as the air but quicker than lightning," Popo said, his voice serene and composed. "What does that mean?" Kakarot asked, furrowing his brow in confusion. "You must clear your head and see my movements with more than just your eyes," Popo explained. "Then you will begin to anticipate my movements. You must move in an efficient manner, wasting no energy." Kakarot nodded, finally understanding the genie's words. He closed his eyes and cleared his mind. In his mind's eye, he could almost see Popo standing before him. He breathed deeply and waited for the right moment. A split second later, his arm shot out, striking Popo in the stomach and doubling the genie over. "Very good," a voice said from the shadows. Moments later, a tall Namekian emerged. He looked almost exactly like King Piccolo. Kakarot realized this wasn't Piccolo. "Must be Kami," he said. "Yes," Kami replied, nodding. "I see you have surpassed my expectations. I didn't expect you to be able to touch Popo for quite some time." "It's not much different from the training with Korin," Kakarot said, "although I think Popo can almost read my mind and anticipate my movements." "You are correct," Kami said. "He can read your movements before you make them if you think too much. He can also sense where you are by feeling your energy. I can teach you to do all of these things, but you must promise me something first." "What's that?" Kakarot asked, curious. "You must promise to remain here and train with me for the next 3 years," Kami said, his tone serious. "And you must use what you learn here to be Earth's protector." "I'm tempted," Kakarot said, considering the offer. "But all I'm here for is to get the Dragon Balls fixed so I can wish back a friend." "I will fix the dragon if you stay here and train," Kami said firmly. "Your friends can wish back Bulma." "Why are you so interested in my training?" Kakarot asked, his curiosity piqued. "You have great potential," Kami said. "There is also a threat that will appear in 3 years. It will manifest at the next World Martial Arts Tournament." "Piccolo?" Popo interjected. "No," Kami replied, shaking his head. While Piccolo did have an offspring, I am not concerned with that. Kakarot, through normal training, will be more than strong enough to keep Piccolo in check. The threat I am talking about is much more powerful. He turned to Kakarot. I believe it will be a henchman of the one you call Frieza. What do you know of Frieza? Kakarot asked, his interest intensifying. Not much more than you do, honestly, Kami admitted. I know that he destroyed your people and your father sent you to Earth to escape their fate. I believe you may have been discovered by one of Frieza's spies. From what I can glean of the future, he will send a warrior to this planet with orders to find and destroy you. How strong is he? Kakarot asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. That's it for this episode, guys. If you've watched to the end, then that may be an indication that you enjoy the episode, so please drop a like so the video could reach more people. See you in the next episode. Take care.